Alright, hello there everyone. So, this is the first video. So this one is going to be on job coding for now until we can do a full one on Dark RP modification, which I'm planning on doing maybe today or tomorrow, we'll see. So, this is some example code that I have for one of the jobs that we have on the server on Undead. If you guys want to know what server that is, it's a Gmod server that's Star Wars RP, specifically Imperial RP. It's a good server. And I'm an executive for them of development, and this is a video for teaching people how to dev and people on our server. So if you'd like to check it out, I'll be putting in the description for its IP, its forums, its Discord, that kind of stuff. Alright, so I'm just going to give a basic description on how to code and that kind of stuff. So this is known as job code. You're going to be putting this into your code of your server, whether you have a web host or a dedicated server. And you're going to be using this for your F4 menu if you have Dark RP, or a server that runs off of Dark RP modification and Dark RP game modes such as Star Wars, SCP, any of those ones, basically any of the RP servers. So you're going to need them if you're doing an RP server. When you are doing job code, you're going to access a file called Dark RP modification, which I'm going to pull up now. Let's see if I have one on my PC. I do. Awesome. So this is Dark RP modification. So you'd open this up, go into the Lua file, you go into Dark RP custom things. These are all different things you're going to be using. On our server, the only ones we actually use is jobs, shipments, entities, and categories. Categories and jobs are always going to be tied together. Entities and categories are always tied together, and shipments and categories are always tied together. So if you do something on categories, or if you do something on entities, categories, jobs, categories, shipments, categories. You have to always do them together. So now we'll go into the job code, and then it'll teach you about categories, so you need to know both of those for this kind of thing. So this is the team. Team always has to be unique, as you can see. ImpCom, ImpComo. So for your team, try to make it something that's a little simple that you can easily remember. If you can't remember, if you have shitty memory or something like that, just write it down or something like that, because you're going to use it for other types of coding usually. So making it easier on yourself was a good idea. So our team for this, for the Imperial Commando job, is ImpCom. You're going to have this line of code called Dark RP create job. Basically creates a job that you'd find in your F4 menu, and this is the name that will be listed. Whenever you do this, make sure to keep it inside quotation marks. Once you've created the job, you will have it inside a parenthesis, put a comma at the end of it, and then you will have a fancy bracket. I actually cannot remember the name of this, so I always call it fancy bracket. This is the color for the job, so if you click F4 and you look at the job, it'll have a certain color. To get this color, you can use RGB. This is known as alpha. You'll never need to worry about it. Just keep it at 255. Basically, it's for, believe it's for visibility or something like that. Doesn't really matter, so just use your RGB. To get a good RGB, you can just look up RGB color pickers online, and that's how you get the code of it. Once you're done with that, make sure to have a comma at the end. For all of your lines of code, as you can see, you will need a comma at the end of it apart from the ending one. You don't need one here, but you should keep one just in case. This is the model. Usually it will be in brackets, such as these brackets, but you don't need to have it. I recommend it. It's just our code doesn't have them always. So this is the model code right here for the job. So for whatever model you want to use on the server for your job, you're going to have to add it to the content pack, of course. So you go into here, look up the model, whatever it is. Should have some models in here. Currently I'm on Undead, so I can pull out models and stuff like that. Let's see. So this is a model. This is Cad Bane's model. So to get it, it's model code, right click, click copy to clipboard, and that is how you get the model code for it. See, that is its model code. And then you just throw that into here, make sure it's inside quotation marks, and of course put a comma at the end. This is the description. For the description, you can be as creative as you want. Basically, this is going to be the thing that shows up when you click on F4, and I'll show it here. Click F4. This is the description right here, this area. So if you want people to see a cool description, put a cool description. You got to keep them inside the normal brackets. There's going to be 2 of them, not 1, 2 of them. And of course, a comma at the end. Now we're on to weapons. So for weapons, you're going to have the fancy brackets. You're going to have a comma at the end, of course. And for each weapon, you're going to have them inside of quotation marks and have a comma at the end of each weapon. To get the weapon code, you're going to go into the server. If you are on one, click Q, go to your weapons. Same concept as before, right click, copy to clipboard. Then you just have it right there. So for each weapon you have, you're going to have the code, put it inside comma or quotation marks, and then put a comma at the end. Now this is the command. So the way F4 works is, and jobs work, whenever you click F4 on a job, it does the code for you instead of having to type it in chat. So a way to switch to a job if you don't want to use an F4 is you do slash, and then you do the job name, or the code, this command. So for the command, you want to keep it different than your job, and you want to do it differently than your team. You want those three to be separate because they can cause issues in the future with certain add-ons. And of course, keep them inside quotation marks, have a comma at the end. Basically anything that has words, like actual words, you're going to have to put quotation marks around apart from description. Max. So max is the maximum amount of people allowed in the job. If it's set to 0, it is infinite. And if you set an actual numerical value, it is that numerical value. Of course, put a comma at the end. Salary, how much they'll get paid. So with this, the base one, I believe, is about 2.5 minutes, 2.6 minutes on the server. So you can change that in Dark RP config, which will be in a different video. But basically, that's how much money you want them to make. And of course, put a comma at the end. Admin. Keep this at 0. Basically, admin means if they have administrative power, they will have access to it if admin is set to 1. So you want to keep this as 0 if you have anything other than the regular ULX ranks. Because if you have like or if you have senior admin or game masters and stuff like that, you have to set up the ULX correctly, or people will not be able to access these jobs. So I recommend just keeping that as a 0, not messing with that. Alright, these three right here are only going to be for like dark RPs and stuff like that. So vote means, is there a vote required to join the job? So if it's set to false, it does not require the vote. Has license. Does it have a gun license? This is another thing you wouldn't need unless you have Dark RP or something like that. Set to false, you don't have them. Can demote. So with a can demote, if you have it as false, they cannot demote you unless they do a certain command. If you have it as true, people can vote to demote you. This is usually used on Dark RPs and City RPs and such to demote people if they're abusing a job. But Star Wars RPs don't usually use those. Category. So that was the thing we were talking about earlier, right? So category is what category will show up in the F4 menu. So we'll go back to the F4 menu. This would be your category. So if you have your category, you want to make sure it's going to match in the category file that I'm going to be showing you in a minute. So just make sure it always matches, and of course put quotation marks and a comma. Sort order. So sort order is basically where it'll show up. So like 1 would show up at the top, whereas 5 would show up later on. We have ours set to anything above 99 because that's what the original person had it as, and I just never adjusted it. But basically, the lower the number, the higher up it will be on the listing. Now this is something called player spawn. So with the site I'm going to be linking down below called C-Site, which can help you make jobs. It makes it way easier to do this kind of stuff. You don't actually have to hand code all this, but it takes a lot longer in my opinion. So player spawn is how much you want players to spawn with health, armor, speed, a few other things, but those are the base ones. So this one, as you can see, doesn't have speed on here. To set speed, you can go look on C-Site and it'll show you. If it doesn't, I'm going to put in the description how to set run speed and stuff like that. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments of the YouTube video, or feel free to DM me on Discord, because I will put my Discord down there. So player spawn. So if you want to set their HP, this is the values that you set it to. So if you have a set health, that's how much they will spawn with. So the set health is how much they'll spawn with. Set maximum health is how much their health can go to a maximum. Usually you want to keep those the same, but some servers like people to spawn with a certain amount, but they can get more. So it's up to each person. Set armor, pretty explanatory. It sets how much armor you have. Armor is better than health, and most people have it set where it can only go to 255, but there's a way to go past that, but that's more advanced than, job code. So, and then it'll have a return client end. Player death, make sure you always have that, because if you don't have that correct, it will mess it up. So basically what this is saying is, When the player dies, their HP will be at 0. And then, once you're done with that, make sure it is end by a fancy bracket and a parenthesis, and then that's the end of the job code. So, that's pretty simple in my opinion. I don't think it's too advanced. Now, we're going to pull up the category, and I'm going to show you real quick how to do that. By the way, quick thing, this is called Notepad++. I'll put a link on how to download that in the bottom. Recommend it, or because using regular Notepad is kind of difficult, honestly. It doesn't work well. This shows you what's wrong with things and that kind of stuff, so it's very beneficial. Alright, so to create a category, it has to have Dark RP create category. And it has, fancy bracket. So name, this one is Imperial Army, or Stormtroopers. So this is the physical category itself. That's why we're saying you need to match them with this and this. So we have Imperial Commando, and in here, we may not have an Imperial Commando because it doesn't, this is an old save, but basically you'd have one that is Imperial Commando. So categories, this is like what category it's for. So job, entity, shipments, etc. This one's for jobs. Start expanded. So this would mean, does it start in server like this? This would be expanded with the Stormtrooper. This would be not expanded. Most people would like it not to be expanded as a recommendation. Color, so as we said, this is the color. RGB color picker, as usual, so just use that if you're trying to do that. Can see, so the can see function is just if you want to make it where only certain people can see it. It's optional, most servers don't use it. But it's in this code. I already removed it, we don't need it, so basically you only use that if you only want certain people to see these categories. Then for the sort order, it's the same concept as before. Lower number, higher up. Alright, if you have any further questions, feel free to make a comment, message me on Discord, join our Discord on Undead, anything like that. So yeah, feel free to join the server, we'd enjoy to have you, and thank you for your time.